Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Good morning, Rabbi.
We are learning Mishna Yama, Parak Dalet, chapter 4, Mishna Gimel, Mishna 3. Okay, so the Kohen Gadol is standing by his cow. In the previous Mishnah, we learned how he was misvada, how he said the vida, the confession over that cow. And now the Mishnah says, Shchatai, he slaughtered the animal, he slaughtered the cow. The kibel b'mizrak as damai. Shchata, he slaughtered the cow, the kibel b'mizrak as damai, and he caught in a basin. Now, if you remember from a few Mishnayos before, the Mishnah discussed when he was when the Kohen Gadol was slaughtering the Tamid Shal Shachar, the daily morning sacrifice. And the previous Mishnah said that when he would shecht it, in order to do shchita, the ritual slaughter, you slit the two pipes, the windpipe and the esophagus. And halachically, if you slit the majority of both of them, that's a kosher shchita. And the previous Mishnah said that when the Kohen Gadol did that shchita, he intentionally only cut the majority of the pipes, the majority of the air that needs to be shechted. And he did that because he had to quickly grab a basin and catch the blood. He had to catch the blood. And someone else would actually finish cutting more, because when you cut more, the blood comes out easier. That same process took place here also. The Mishnah isn't repeated again, but that same thing took place here by this shchit. That was the shchita, the slaughtering of the daily morning sacrifice, which was a lamb, and this is his special Yom Kippur sacrifice, which was a cow.
The shochet had to be the one to get the bull?
The Kohen Gadol had to be the one to do everything on Yom Kippur. He had to shecht and he had to catch it. And he had to bring it and he had to sprinkle it. Himself. He had to do everything on Yom Kippur. Even the regular daily things on Yom Kippur, he had to do it. Now, next. Unasanai lemi shumamaris boy ala roivet aravi shebehechal. He then gave this bowl that had the blood in it to someone who would be stirring it. Someone who would be mixing it around, stirring it. And this person was standing on the Roivet Ravi Shebehechal. We'll just right now explain what that means. We'll just translate it as standing on the fourth row of stones from the Heichal, from the sanctuary building. Kadesh Yikresh, that it wouldn't congeal. This blood had to be sprinkled, but it wasn't sprinkled right away. Other things had to be done first for it to be sprinkled. If you leave the blood around too long, it's going to congeal. And therefore, after he caught the blood, he gave it to someone who would stand there until he needed it and stirred it to make sure it didn't congeal. And we say that the person who was doing this al haroivet aravi shebehechal, on the fourth row. The little translation is on the fourth row in the sanctuary. Now, rows in this case means the following: the temple floor consisted of rows of marble paving stones. And there were obvious rows of it. Now, the Mishnah. So if you read the Mishnah as is, it sounds like this person who was going to be mixing it was standing on the fourth row of stones, Sheba Heichal, in the Heichal, in the sanctuary, which would sound like he's inside the sanctuary building, the building of the Beis Hamikdash, not in the courtyard, but in the building. The problem with that is that the Torah says that during the Yom Kippur service, there's only one person who's allowed into the Heichal. There's only one person allowed into the sanctuary of the Beis Hamikdash. That is the Kohen Gadol. All year round, any Kohen can go in. On Yom Kippur, only the Kohen Gadol can go in. So this person who's sprinkling the blood, who's stirring the blood, is not the Kohen Gadol. So he can't be inside the Heichal. He can't be inside the sanctuary. Therefore, the way to explain the Mishnah is that it's the fourth row from the sanctuary. Meaning, as we mentioned before, there was an area called the Chil, the antechamber, That was like an area before entering the Heichal itself. It was part of the Heichal, part of the sanctuary. So 4 rows starting from that into the courtyard. That's where this person was standing. That's where this person took the bowl of blood and he stirred it. Okay, next. Natal Machta. The Kohen Gadol grabbed hold of a shovel. The Olaresha Mizbeach, and he went up to the top of the altar. Ufina Gacholim Elach ve'elach. And he cleared away the outer coals of the pyre, this way and that. The chayte, and then he scooped up a shovelful of hot coals that are within the pyre. Meaning a pyre is a pile of wood, right? And it was set afire. And eventually these embers, I guess you would call them the burnt pieces, they're referred to as kacholim, as charcoal, right? They're charcoal, and they give off heat. Now we're going to learn eventually that this pyre that we're talking about, this pile of wood that was burning on the base and on the mizbeach, we know there were such things because that's how you burn the sacrifices. But it seems like this one that we're talking about now, that it was going to be using on Yom Kippur for the ketores, for the offering of the incense, was a pyre specially made for that. So you got this pile of wood and it's burned. Before he would scoop up any of those coals, he first moved away the outer layer of coals. That's what it means when it says upine gachalim elach ve'elach. He cleared away the outer coals of the pyre, this way and that. I just moved them over to the side, and then from those that are really hot on the inside, he then took the shovel and he scooped it up. The yarad, he then went down from the altar. The hinicha, and he placed it. This shovel with the hot coals, he placed it on the 4th row on the 4th row in the Azara. The 4th row in the Azara is the 4th row from the sanctuary that I mentioned before. That means you had the person who was stirring the blood on that 4th row, and this is next to that person that he put down that shovelful of hot coals. The purpose of that hot coals we're going to see was because he would burn the incense on those coals in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, in the Holy of Holies. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.